Welcome to the glorious world of Anno 117 Pax Romana. In this ultimate beginner's guide video, I'm going to share some tips and tricks to not only help you survive, but thrive. Thank you Ubisoft for giving me an early access look and for sponsoring this video. Let's roll. Before we jump into the glorious world, I'd like to share some quick tips on starting a game. In this video, I'll be playing in the endless mode rather than the more story-driven campaign, and after some quick customization to both my portrait and banner, it's time to select the game settings. I recommend to you that you start on the easiest possible options, generally a mixture of normal and easy, and you can also change your Emperor to the slightly easier Julia, who we'll talk about later on. Finally, select your rival governors. Generally, the default options will be all good here, and your starting province. Albion, the wild, distant shores, will be a little bit more difficult, so it may be easier to begin your first playthrough in the sunny heartland of Latium. Speaking of beginning, let's jump straight in. My second category of tips here is all about finding your feet in the early game. For starters, the pause function will be your best friend. You don't want to lose too much money early on after all, while you're probably looking around and exploring your starting land, looking for rivers, forests, mountains, anything that might be workable and profitable for you as you develop. Next, it's time to start development. Before I do that though, I like to send my starting ship, my flagship, out by right-clicking on PC in and around the mini-map to explore the world around me. This will reveal fellow governors who will be useful later on, I promise you, as we begin to fill the needs of our economy. Moving along, let's get back to building a proper foundation. Let's talk about the core mechanics that will drive your early growth. Production chains will fuel everything in this game, and our first one is fairly straightforward. We need a woodcutter. This will produce wood, processing time of 30 seconds. The sawmill, the same processing time, which is great, we can build it one for one, will then process the wood into lumber, into timber that we can use to build our buildings. Obviously, I'm going to place it down somewhere forested, and probably somewhere close to my trading post, for efficiency and distance matters here. The other crucial thing that matters is that all buildings need a street connection and a street connection to the trading post, so early roads are just as important as the buildings on them. While paying attention to our maintenance costs and worker requirements, warehouses are also a vital improvement here. Goods are delivered to the next available warehouse, or a trading post or processing building. In this case, maybe the lumber will go straight to the sawmill. Finally, I'll round my construction out here by placing some houses and some gloriously diagonal roads to house my future workers and residents. However, any good governor knows that the people will have wants and needs. So let's talk now not just about building a place, but about building somewhere people actually want to live. A place where you'll be able to upgrade and grow and progress. As you increase your population count and grow your fledgling cities, you'll start to unlock new goods. In this case, basic food, sardines and porridge. Providing this good, producing it and supplying it to my people will bring income and an increase to the overall population and workforce. So let's take a look at it as a quick example. Here I am setting up the first part of the two-part supply chain, a wheat farm. Fairly straightforward, it looks great. Once this thing is down and producing wheat, again, let's pay attention to processing times, for we'll need to provide some balance there. I then need to figure out how to make porridge. The processing time of a porridge kitchen is 1 minute, and it provides a little bit of extra population, adding to the needs of my people that I can check anytime by clicking on a house. Here you can see the working population leaves something to be desired, and the needs are not yet met. For it's not just goods, but also public services that I need to provide. These act more like buildings with a radius area of effect, rather than producing an individual good. Let's take a look. We have the market and the tavern providing money, population, and happiness respectively across the two individual public services. Unlike goods producing chains, these buildings can simply be plopped down near residences, and they'll provide their area of effect. You can see it denoted by the green along my roads. Good road connections will be really important, as well as overall placement. You want to place these things down near where your people are living. These are desirable public amenities that will provide the needs of your people, as well as extra area of effect benefits. We don't necessarily have to make everything here, but my advice is you probably want to try to, if you can. For upgrading these populations is a massive goal. You'll definitely want to move beyond, in the Roman example, the Libertas, Tier 1 pop. By meeting their needs, congratulations, they can be upgraded to a Tier 2. Take note that I don't actually have to meet every single one of these needs. In this case, I could just provide the tunics and meet the 1 out of 1 threshold. Ultimately, I think it's best practice to provide everything you can, for these needs will carry over to the next tier of population. In this case, the plebeian residents here in front of you, the Tier 2 pops for a Roman Latium city. As I upgrade en masse here, one quick tip comes to mind. Make sure you check your workforce numbers. In this case, I have plenty, so it's not really an issue, but your workforce derives from your population, and they live in your buildings. So you may need to build more Libertas housing as you upgrade the existing housing stock. Jumping over to Albion for a second, though, things work a bit different here. Obviously the housing stock looks very different, so too are the starting populations. As we upgrade them, we get to choose between a blend of Romano and Celtic traditions, focused more on the knowledge attribute with its own cultural needs. On the right-hand side, the traditional approach. Local gods and nature with smiths and aldermen as our pops. There's more of a religious focus and, again, very different cultural needs. So the kinds of goods that you'll need to be producing or trading for, perhaps, are completely different, as well as the overall look, feel, and aesthetics of the city, and all of the different population-centered buildings and experiences that come with it. Don't forget, you can check the overall demands and supply of your people and economy, the supply-demand equation, inside here, the production tab, at any time to get a feel for what you need to make more or less of, as the growing attributes of your production chains become far more important. Things like happiness and prestige, as well as research and religion, both forming vital tools to improve the lives of your people and get access to better military hardware, better bonuses, better everything. The sanctuary building here is the first example, providing an area of effect, giving religion and happiness to nearby residents. Quite a wide area of effect too, that also of course feeds into the Tier 2 needs here. By providing religion to nearby residents, we can choose to adopt a local deity, providing benefits to the island's specific production chains associated with the deity, while global effects will take into account all islands and the population of specific deity followers. They'll also provide some nice benefits and buildings. On to research. Here you can see the Grammaticus, the first research building available to me in this Roman playthrough, and boy oh boy, does it unlock some great potential or what! Here you can see the full extent of the research tree, fueled by knowledge as well as sometimes some specific gameplay conditions in order to unlock the next branch of the tree. You'll note that the benefits here are incredibly wide-reaching, including unlocking extra new religions that we were just talking about, extra deities, as well as military technologies. Moreover, the full extent of the tree will allow you to really lean into any aspect of the game. I particularly like to focus on some of the early economic benefits. While I play with quite a bit of combat, it doesn't tend to be a super focus for me early on. Therefore, I tend to look to lean into benefits like 1 extra knowledge for my spinners, a great way to increase your research speed very early in the game. Next, let's talk about some of the downsides to growth, development, and risk. As your city grows, its population increases, you'll level it up, tier it up, as well as leveling up your pops. And this will increase risk. Risk of any kind, or at least any noteworthy kind, can be checked at any moment you like up in the top right here. Island health, happiness, and fire safety are the 3 big ones on the right. Most of these risks can actually be managed locally, easily. But you're going to need the necessary goods, equipment, and potentially technology, research, knowledge unlocks to avoid this kind of unhappiness disaster. While also paying attention to the goods supply and the needs of your people to keep them happy and stop them revolting, you should also focus on the kinds of buildings that you're placing down and the effect that they have. Take the bakery, for example. This one has a -2 area of effect on safety, but +3 income. So it's a great way to make money, but it significantly increases the fire safety risk of nearby buildings. So if I place this right down in the middle of where everybody's living, it's probably not going to be a great idea, but it could make me a lot of money. Some buildings just flat out have bad effects, and these can lead to nasty side effects if you have too many people living close by, or if you don't look to at least try and mitigate the effects. Early City Watch buildings like the Vigils are great, and as you move through, more developments and more advancements will help you fight these even more. From simple latrines through to wonderful Roman aqueducts, providing health and fire safety like there's no tomorrow. Ultimately, knowledge and research will be your best friend, as well as upgrading your pops. This will let you gain access to things like this. By the way, glorious looking aqueduct. Man alive, it really suits this place well. Looks great, doesn't it? You might say it looks a little bit prestigious, almost. Let's talk prestige and diplomacy. Prestige often emanates out from buildings, including our central villa, where we live, as well as some later unlocks, like, for example, the wine supply production chain here. This glorious chain also provides prestige to nearby residents. We can leverage some of that prestige potentially against fellow governors, or maybe even the Emperor himself. This trade in particular, this negotiation here for a trade treaty, is of vital importance. We'll talk a little bit about trade later on, but you can see the kinds of different things that are impacting how this governor feels about me. Then we also have another, maybe slightly more major character, the Emperor. And much like other characters, other governors, and actually our population, the Emperor can send us quests, challenges, if you will. Should we meet them, or should we choose to take actions and events that please the Emperor, we will improve our reputation with him and avoid him going to war with us, which is the ultimate outcome of a completely ruined relationship with the Emperor. So, if you want to take on that fight, make sure you're ready. You could also win friends, to make money, declare war, or get a general look and feel for the kind of strength that you're up against. I find this screen particularly useful, not just because I can take a loan, but also because I can get a bit of feel for the other governors around. If we can win this guy over, he could even become a specialist. Who are they, you might ask? Well, our core prestige generating building, our specialist building, the Governor's Villa, can house specialists. And they will apply a massive area of effect across a whole swathe of our city. We can expand it out by building expansion little offices of sorts, and continue to place more specialists as we develop further. And one can gain these special dudes and dudettes by in-game events, progression, or trade. Let's talk about trade now. This is such a fundamental mechanic. Trade is fueled by trade ships. The shipyard will be important actually for the remainder of this video, so take note, we're going to need the production chains that supply this puppy. As we look out to the broader world around us, we'll find many different trade opportunities. And actually, by the way, as another quick tip, opportunities to just straight up buy ships, so if you have some extra cash, that might be a great way to do it. From there, you can conduct manual trade, one of the ways to do it in this game. I actually need some of those nice looking vases, and I have a lot of clay, so maybe I could do a little manual trade here and start things rolling out by sending this ship back to my homeland, back to my island, my starting location. But there are other ways that we can trade, perhaps slightly easier ways. By opening up the trade routes menu, I can assign my ships that I've built in my shipyards to trade routes. These can be with other players, governors, what have you, or internal trade routes, by the way, with myself. Here I can set up a reoccurring trade route using my ships, or I could open up a trade treaty through the diplomatic actions that we've just talked about. Then I can head to a trading post, select literally any good that I'd like to buy or sell, and the minimum buying or selling requirements. This is your best way to gain market access and to get goods that you may not otherwise be able to get. Why would I be able to get them, you may ask? Well, different islands have different fertility rates for all of the resources in the game, and you won't be able to get every resource locally, so you're going to need to trade. Or alternatively, you could look to expand. So, in part 9 of this video. Goodness gracious, the tips and tricks. Let's talk about expansion. As you look out beyond your starting island, and for different fertilities and different resources, you'll notice there are plenty of places to claim. You might look to use diplomacy to ease this along a little bit and not offend anybody, but for now, let's focus on the actual expansion part. Send out a ship with some goods, I've sent some lumber and tiles because I'm going to need both of them, to an island. Find its coastline, and here you can build a trading post. As you can see, it's got a fairly hefty one-off cost as well as a 50 tax per minute. So, we need to make sure that our economy is in order. This island will have its own identity, religious and otherwise, including those precious resources. I could choose to use my trade network, my internal trade network in this case, to send that primary resource back to my mainland for processing, or I could process it locally. The choice is mine. For the world is vast, taking a step out just a moment to appreciate Latium and Albion, the two provinces on this massive world map. And jumping over in this same playthrough to take a look at Albion, I can buy a ship and start to explore around, using the same fundamental principles that we've talked about throughout this video, from exploration through to trade, to try and make the most of this newfound world. Diplomacy matters here too. For combat, conflict, and war is ultimately going to be the outcome if you're playing in an aggressive setting. You're probably going to need some of these buildings. Military buildings will become available to you, and as they do, you'll be able to train melee, land-based units, ranged, catapults, you name it, just the same as you'll be able to train your ships. You'll of course need your ships in order to transport land-based units from one island to another. So, ultimately, the Navy will probably be your first point of call. That alongside coastal defenses, for it's not just fellow governors, but also raiders who will bother you. Here you can build coastal defenses, like watchtowers or walls to protect your villa, or you could look to say, I don't know, maybe offense is the best defense, building a fleet instead. Take care though, for this will have a high maintenance cost, and of course you'll need the right supply chains or goods in order to fuel it. Thank you so much for watching this Anno 117 Pax Romana Beginner's Guide. I really hope that you've learned something new. If there was anything that I missed, do chuck it down in the comments below. It's often a great spot to hive mind extra information. Thank you for watching, thank you for being here. I'll see you next time.